Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Airplane Arms Navigating Back to School. Today we're going to talk about a question that is rolling around in a lot of parents' heads right now. What does the difference look between keeping their kids in ASD schools in the high-level operation level versus opting into the virtual program? My name is Lisa Miller. I'm a communications specialist with ASD. I'm joined by Jennifer Knutson, our Senior Director of Teaching and Learning, and Carol Boatman, our Director of Learning Innovations. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us today. So that's kind of a big question, and I really just want to focus on that today. So Jennifer, if you can kind of start us off on the ASD at school side and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so ASD in school really is your neighborhood school and your school of choice, and it is just, we're moving it online. The difference I think between that and virtual is depending on the risk level, you change how the delivery of instruction is. So with high risk specifically, we are in a fully online environment. So the classroom is Canvas, that's our learning management system. Mm-hmm. So all students, all teachers will be instructing and learning through that platform. So that's our virtual online platform. What parents can expect in students is that there's going to be a combination of instruction. There's going to be live instruction for students by teachers. There'll be recorded instruction. And then there'll also be activities and lessons that students will also do. Okay, mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it would look. It's very different than what we did in the spring, because in the spring it was kind of in reaction to, kind of a crisis at the time, mm-hmm. and we didn't really have a whole lot of time to plan, and we were providing instruction that was more supplemental, especially mm-hmm. for the elementary and the middle school levels. High school was graded, and that was a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So starting in the fall, pre-K actually through 12 is all graded. It's not supplemental. There's going to be instruction, assignments, grades, mm-hmm. all of that provided. So that's how it will look different than it did in the spring.
Okay, so yeah, springtime was really, in a matter of a week, we decided, the numbers turned and we never really came back from spring break, and we had supplemental options available for elementary students and families. And that's really, it's going to be more of the online through Canvas and actual graded work, and just more of a more intensive and really school at home.
Right. It is school at home, and that's where they are very similar. And the high risk is that you are doing all your learning online through live instruction, recorded instruction, and activities. It's different when you go into that medium risk. And that's where it really changes a lot.
So, because the numbers are going up, every day, it looks like we may be in high risk level. No one can say, but the numbers are going up. So, if a family is looking to plan for one versus the other, Carol, what is the difference really between the virtual program, between what Jenny just described for the high risk?
So the virtual program came about for parents who have or students that are in high risk category and they don't want to be at school at all. But what they do have is the option to be connected to their neighborhood or choice school. So if eventually they want to go back to school, they have that ability to be able to do that. Or if they say for instance, they don't want their kid to go to all of the classes available, but maybe they want them to participate in music when we're at a medium risk, then that's something they have that ability to do. For high school students and middle school students, they have that option to participate in activities after school when they're connected to their neighborhood school. So that's the one key thing that's really similar about that piece of it, is even though it's considered homeschool, they still are connected to their neighborhood school. The other component of it it is an online virtual learning program through Calvert Learning, K-5. Middle school, so 6th through 12th middle school and high school will use a combination of Apex and eDynamics classes, and that's where they will get their core classes and their electives at the same time. K through 5 program is content driven, and it is tied to our state standards. And it's project-based learning, it's activity-based, it has ebooks, it has the ability to self-pace. That's a key component with this program, is that it's at your pace, at your place, in your space, which Dr. Bishop has talked about. And that's a big piece of it. And the parents play a big role, particularly in K-5, in the movement of the curriculum. A thing that's different with the virtual program compared to if you were to pick homeschool is that we will provide an ASD virtual teacher that will help deliver instruction, that will help with the pacing, that will also help with the grading. They will actually be responsible for the grading. And they'll provide support if a student is struggling or if a student needs to advance. So those are key components that are different. Now, the other piece of it is what ASD in school is doing for their learning platform is completely different than what ASD virtual program is doing. So they're different learning platforms. So you can go between the two of them, but we highly recommend that you stay with one or the other, at least until the quarter. And then you can switch if you would like to. But we're looking at, because they are different programs and different deliveries of instruction, we're recommending that you choose one or the other.
Yeah, so it's not meant to bounce back and forth, or like at minimum maybe a quarter is when,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then what level of involvement would the parents have at the virtual program versus high risk in school? Is there more in the virtual program? Is it about the same, or how do you think that differs or compares?
So for the virtual program, it's the parents are really involved in the elementary level. They're the ones that are going to help set the pace and the schedule. And the great thing about Culvert Learning is it actually gives you a suggested schedule. Hey, here's how much time to spend on this lesson. Here are some breaks to take within the lesson. The virtual teacher will help provide support and give lessons synchronously and asynchronously. But the parent is really going to be key involved. And a big piece of that, the reason is kids won't be able to navigate it on their own. They're not considered independent learning as elementary students. And so the parent is going to have to help them navigate through that piece. There is a parent platform that helps them learn how to navigate through the lessons, and it helps them look at the pace for the student. It shows them how to access the information, and we will provide training for parents. That's one of the things that we're going to do before school starts, through Zoom meetings where parents can go in and actually get their hands on in that parent component and get familiar with it. So that is something that will be provided.
Thank you. And then Jenny, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say some of the similarities and differences is that with ASD in school, teachers are guiding that pacing of the instruction, because it is ASD curriculum, whether it's our traditional schools or even our alternative schools. So immersion, open optional, ABC, any of those programs that we have, teachers are actually putting our curriculum into Canvas courses. And so they will pace that out. But I will agree with you, Carol, with our young children in elementary school, parents still are heavily involved because they aren't independent in their learning. And so that's where there's some similarities, but you will have the teacher making assignments, having due dates for some of those assignments, and scheduling like live sessions that maybe parents might need to help elementary kids get on.
Thank you. And then you hit on like immersion and alternative schools. Carol, is that for families with their kiddos in those type of schools? Is that really an option to continue that type of education in the virtual program?
So it is. The immersion programs actually have set criteria for being able to be an ASD virtual. And so the best way to go about that is to communicate and touch base with the principal at that school and ask them what the steps are they have in place to get that language immersion piece of it. And I know there's several different ways to have that delivered. But the principal at the school is going to have the best knowledge for that, but it is an option. That would be considered a choice school, and that is one of the things that is available if you choose ASD virtual program.
So as a parent, would I be able to go, I know this is a unique question for each school, but would you recommend maybe they sit down and talk to the principal at their school and talk through, their student and if the virtual program would be best, or is that a decision that families should make on their own before they decide to go forward?
Well, I always say parents know their kids best. They really understand their strengths and their weaknesses. I know some of the concerns that I've heard from parents is the delivery of online instruction. They're worried about the screen time. They're worried about, will it really engage them or not? And I've been on the Calvert Learning and have actually not manipulated, but tested the videos and played through them. And they're really engaging, and they are very mindful of developmentally where a student is. And they're really appropriate in the content that they deliver. So the question of whether to talk with the principal or not is really up to the parent. If they feel like they need some more information about what would be the best platform, then that would be an avenue to go. I would recommend getting on our website at ASD, because we have a lot of information about ASD in school and a lot about the ASD virtual. You can actually get on and access the Calvert Learning and look at all the different information that is provided. There are some sample videos that you could look at for lessons. It also shows the content for each grade level, so you can break it down from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. It'll show you some samples of lessons, and it'll also show you the learning objectives. So that would be a great way to help you understand if ASD Virtual is a good program for your student.
Thank you for that. And then as far as families that have already committed, do you have like a rough estimate of how many people are already saying, yes, this is for sure what we want to do? And do you see a trend in, is it more secondary students who are going for it, or is it kind of all over?
So as of this morning, we have 1,100 students that have signed up.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing is it's really even in each grade level. So there isn't an outlier. There might be a school that has an outlier that maybe they might have a higher level of students that are enrolled. But when you look at the enrollment from K through 12, they're really sitting at about 100. So it's interesting to see that each grade level is pretty even, actually, is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. And is there anything else that you wanted to add? Any thoughts on?
Well, there's just one more piece for ASD in school. I think, one of the pieces that we have added on this year that really will, I think, help us, especially with the English language arts and math, and ensuring that kids have those skills is we've added on iReady, which is a computer-assisted instructional program that all kids in K through 9 will have an ELA, and K through 8 in math. And ELA is English language arts, so they're reading. And why this is so important, it's kind of like what Carol was talking about with the virtual, is it allows kids to do a self-assessment ahead of time online, and it places them where they're at so that it can adapt to their personalized learning. And then teachers can look at this data, and then if they see kids struggling, they can schedule live sessions where they can do tutoring with kids and stuff like that. So it's very similar to the virtual. We have to add on some online components that will round out our instruction when we're in high risk that we didn't necessarily have in the spring.
So it sounds like a lot more has gone into the ASD at school during a high risk level, and then we have a whole new program for families who are really looking to shift into the home learning environment for some time but still stay connected to their local school, or is that what we're calling it, neighborhood school?
Yeah,
or
neighborhood choice school is
choice
what we're
school,
calling
yeah.
it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so lots to think about. I think, every family is different, and it's all about having that family meeting and going through the options, doing your research, and deciding what is the best fit for your students. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that there's so much more we can talk about, but really going to the ASD website is a great resource. There's a lot of FAQs on there.
Yes.
And thank you so much for watching us, for following along with this series. There's still time to ask questions. We'll link to the Google form where you can submit your questions to be considered for either this show, or else we'll add those onto our FAQs on our website. Thank you.